Eating healthy is expensive, or at least that's what we've been commonly told. And it totally can be, but I'm really excited to talk to you and walk you through this next month of our eating to show you that eating a whole, all-natural diet can be possible while still on a budget. So let's get started. A little background before we get into the nitty-gritty is that my husband and I were both raised on an all-American or standard American diet, and we grew up with loads of processed foods. And when we first got married, I didn't know how to cook. It's been about 10 years now of us growing and learning a ton about food and what's healthy and what's not healthy. So that process led us through many different seasons of our eating journey. And we went from buying all packaged foods when we first got married to, in our healthiest times, spending like $1,600 a month on food. Yeah, that included going out on the occasion and any extra spending, but that was more than our mortgage payment at the time, and it is just an astronomical amount of money to be spending on food. And so about 18 months ago, we suffered a pretty substantial income loss, and we had to figure out how to still continue our priority of eating healthy, but on about a third of the budget of what we had been spending. And I'm so excited to be sharing some of those details with you of what we've learned in the last 18 months. And we're going to be putting together a series over the next month of how you can eat healthy, all natural, and some organic where possible, while still staying in a budget. So let's get talking about ways that you can save money. I'm going to go through some things that we have learned, and some of them are going to be a little like, yeah, duh, we all know that. And hopefully a few of them you'll glean from and be able to apply them to your house and be able to save some money on your food budget. First tip, meal plan. We've all heard this before, but meal planning gets a little bit of a bad rap, mostly because we see ourselves poring over cookbooks for 2 hours to make this huge extensive list and then have to go grocery shopping after that. Here's my tips on meal planning. Forget the cookbooks. Go through your mind and think of your top 20 or 30 meals that you know your family loves. Write that list down, and when you're meal planning, only look at that list. And then if you have a week where you're like, hey, I have extra time, or I want to try something new, then try something new, but don't waste 2 hours of your week every week trying to figure out what you're going to eat for that week and then realize that recipe's too long, that recipe's too complicated. Oh my word, I totally forgot an item for this recipe, and then be completely discouraged and feel like you wasted a ton of time. The next tip is cut down on the meat. I'm probably going to get some grief for that, but financially speaking, it is the most effective way to cut down on your food bill. Let's break it down. I purchased a ton of dry beans in preparation for this month, and a 5-pound bag of dry beans cost me $5.50. Now, yesterday I went shopping for week 2, and I bought 1 pound of ground beef for $5.29. So that dry weight of beans was the same amount, pretty much, 21 cents different, as the 1 pound of ground meat. And dry beans, when cooked, over double in weight. So let's just be on the safe side here and say they only double in weight. And so you get 10 pounds of beans for $5.50 versus 1 pound of meat for $5.29. Now, yes, that's organic grass-fed beef, and you probably can find it cheaper elsewhere. But if you're leaning towards finding ways to reduce your budget while eating healthy and making better choices for yourself and the environment, going with legumes and beans is one of the easiest ways to cut down on that budget. Speaking of beans, cooking your beans from dry will save you a ton of money. Not only are beans cheaper, but buying dry beans is about a quarter of the price of buying canned beans. Cooking beans from dry is actually super simple. All you have to do is soak them overnight, or if you work, put them in water when you leave for work, and then cook them while you're making dinner. Or I like to cook mine in huge batches and then put them in little plastic containers and freeze them. And the best thing is those little plastic containers that I have are about the same size as a can of beans. So if a recipe calls for 2 cans of beans, I just pull out those 2 containers of beans that I have cooked in the freezer, and that's it. It's just like having canned beans on hand. Another tip is skip the processed food snacks. Yes, even the organic superfood 7-grain gluten-free crackers that cost you $6.99 for like 10 ounces. They are so expensive. And this is the one thing that when we cut out those processed foods, even though they are healthy, it reduced our food budget significantly. Yes, I would love to get veggie straws or those really amazing rice and bean crackers that are like mini rice puffs, but they're just expensive. And so now my kids know that our snacks consist of cucumbers, carrots, apples, popcorn, and oranges. Those are your options. And honestly, having those things as snacks in our house has somewhat reduced my kids begging for snacks. And part of their begging for snacks, I think, had a lot to do with, I'm bored, I just want something to do, and so I'm gonna ask mom for a snack. And when I offer those things, then they're like, well, I don't want that. Well, then you're probably not very hungry. Buy in bulk. We found a gem of a natural food store a little over an hour from us, and I'm gonna go over the bulk items that I purchased in preparation for this month. But if you can find a store or a co-op, or maybe your grocery store even has bulk items, that is a great way to save a ton of money on food. For example, we no longer purchase our oatmeal in the little canisters from the store. We buy our oatmeal in a 50-pound bag. Yep, 50 pounds, the weight of my child, in oatmeal. That bag will last us a really long time, but that means that our heaping 4 cups of oatmeal that we use for breakfast every morning costs us less than $1. Use up your inventory. When my husband and I went through a substantial income loss 18 months ago, we spent quite a few months just using up what we had on hand and buying fresh produce to supplement those things. And if you're like we were, you probably have layers upon layers of things in your pantry and freezer that when you go through it, you're gonna be like, I had no idea I had this. Or what is this millet that I bought for one recipe and I have no idea how else to use it? Challenge yourself to use up that inventory at least 1 or 2 months a year. In those months, you will see your budget drop like crazy. Make your own bone broth. And I will be going through the steps to do that in one of my later videos, so stick around for that. But essentially, you're using things that you would normally throw away, and you're making bone broth that's really healthy for you for free, basically. Eat in season. Now, we are not strictly seasonal eaters, but when we first started eating healthy, this whole seasonal concept was fairly new to me. I know. Crazy, right? But when you grow up being able to buy strawberries and blueberries and cucumbers any time of the year, the thought of those not being grown near you just like doesn't really cross your mind, or at least it didn't mine. And so once you start paying attention to that, you'll notice that avocados are cheaper in the winter because they're in season. Same with any citrus fruit is cheaper in the winter because they're in season. And strawberries and berries are going to be cheaper in the summer because they're in season. So if you can, visit your farmer's market in the summer and go berry picking in the summer and freeze those items so that you can have them throughout the year for a much cheaper price than what you would be able to buy them fresh in the winter. Make it work with what you have on hand. I cannot tell you how many times I have forgotten that one thing at the grocery store and sent my husband to pick something up on his way home from work which that one item maybe cost $3, but then, oh, pick up this and pick up that. And what about this? And this looks good. I'm gonna grab that because I'm hungry. So that $3 item quickly turns into $25. You know what I'm talking about. So the thing that works the best is just to make do with what you have on hand. Maybe it won't taste perfectly, but it will save you money in the long run. Which also leads me to my next and final tip is when you are grocery shopping, stick to your list. Now, I'm on week 2 of actually going through the meals and buying accordingly to my meals very strictly this month. And I've realized, even though we've really reduced our spending on food, I still had to rein myself in from being like, oh, well, we could use that, or just in case we run out of food, I'm gonna grab that. It's hard to stick to your list, but it can save a ton of money if you put on blinders and only get what's on your list. All right, I'm gonna quick go over a few points of what this month is all about and what this month is not about. So over the next month, I'm gonna be putting together 4 weeks worth of meal planning, what I bought, how much that cost, and what meals I made with those items. I am going to be doing all natural, whole foods and organic where possible. I'm gonna be aiming to eat greens at least 3 times a week. Some weeks it'll be more. We're gonna be limiting gluten to at most 1 meal per day. There's a few items that I'm not going to be including in the weekly spend because these are typically items that you probably already have on hand that you're not gonna have to purchase every week. Now, if I do run out of some of these, I will purchase them and I will include them in our weekly amount. Number 1, olive oil, ketchup, mayo, mustard, jelly, and basic seasonings like salt and salt and pepper, and garlic powder, onion powder. If I have to purchase a specialty seasoning like I did for week 1, I will include that in the cost of the week. This month is not a guide to the best way to eat. I know that we have definitely eaten healthier in different seasons of our life, but we're doing the best that we can on a budget. And I feel okay about that, and I hope that you will as well. This is also not a specific diet. It's not paleo, it's not sugar-free, it's not gluten-free, it's not Whole30, it's none of those things. It is strictly all natural whole foods. That's my guideline. We are feeding our family of 5 on $550 for the month. One other thing that this month does not include is any beverages. I felt like that was too specific to rein in and say, this is how much we spent. So if you buy alcohol or coffee or tea or sparkling water, that is not included whatsoever in this video. I hope that sums everything up for you, and let's get started.